So what is Entity Framework Core? Entity Framework Core is an object relational mapper, or an ORM, that enables .NET developers to work with a database using .NET objects. In a nutshell, it's a data access technology. The great thing about Entity Framework Core is you don't have to use low-level .NET objects as you did previously with ADO.NET. The benefit of this is that it allows you to implement your CRUD operations easy utilizing the entities that you want to map to your database tables. And then from there, you don't have to work with those low-level objects, like I stated before, with older ADO.NET. So you can create properties on a class and then build that within your own database context and then map that set to your database tables. And that's essentially what this diagram demonstrates. As you can see on the left side of this slide, we have a database context. And inside of that database context, we have DB sets. The DB sets are related to your entity types. Let's say you have a class file named car. And with car, it's a specific database set within your context. So you have the class car with all of its different properties associated with, let's say with the car color, tires. You have different properties on that specific car class. Well, that set, when you implement your database context, will map to a table to your database associated with your car class. So this is how you implement your database context. Inside of that database context, you have your database sets that are associated with your class files. Those classes map to the tables on your database, and then you implement your CRUD operation, create, read, update, and deletes on those specific entities associated with your database sets. This is how your database context and the database sets associated with your context map to your tables, and then how that interacts with your database itself. There's many different database providers associated with the Entity Framework Core. The main one that we will be implementing within our course app is Microsoft SQL Server. We'll implement it with the local DB. We're going to build a Mac OS X local app, and it will utilize SQLite in its implementation. It will use a little database file, and we will implement a little console app that reads from that SQLite database. We also have all these different providers with IBM data servers in memory for testing. You have MySQL, you have Oracle. There's a lot of different database providers that we can implement or utilize inside of our Entity Framework Core context. Remember, Entity Framework Core is newer. Some of these providers is still a work in progress, that Microsoft is still trying to implement all of the different functionality associated with those providers. But Microsoft SQL Server has a lot of support associated with it. But in the future, MySQL, Oracle will be on that same level so that you can utilize Entity Framework Core within those contexts. So looking forward, what do we have here? In this lecture section, we're going to implement within Visual Studio our local DB to our context. We're going to build a context on our section app. It's just going to be a small little context that we can implement some CRUD operations. Then we're going to build a console app on Mac OS X and just implement that console app so that it can interact with some data. And then we can look at how that's emitting into the terminal. At the end of this lecture section, we're going to build our app with the profile database context. We're going to create a login table to associate our username and password. Then we're going to associate an email send to register an individual. If they are not registered in the database, it will send an email to them so that they can register. So we're going to build an app to associate with the login. Then we're going to build an email send to register there. And then we'll also build the context of all the information we want to gather from the individual, like their home information, a lot of different items associated with the profile, because our app is going to be associated with the profile login and displaying information associated with an individual. So I'm looking forward to start implementing our Entity Framework Core context. And without further ado, let's get started to build on the concepts of Entity Framework Core.